6:37. Let's get started. Calling this April meeting of the AMSA Board of Trustees to order. Just review the agenda briefly. We'll go through our ED update with our chair business. Actually, what we'll do is we'll move our math department guest up to the front of the agenda so that we can go through her presentation. And then under chair business, we will also talk about the strategic planning. Hopefully the survey task forces can give an update. We do need to talk, we need to finalize our 2018 board goals. And there's a discussion around one of the items, and then we'll do committee updates. And then we will go into executive session to discuss litigation strategies, consider the purchase and lease of real property, and strategies for collective bargaining, because doing so in open session would be detrimental to our position. So are there any changes to the agenda? And I also do want to note that the meeting is being videotaped. We will not reconvene after executive session. Okay, if you could all look at the minutes. We have, I believe, 2 sets of minutes, right? The regular meeting from March, as well as our all-day offsite on March 31st. So if we can take a look at those minutes.
There is.
If there are no comments or questions on the meeting minutes, we need to do them one at a time. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the March 22nd meeting minutes.
Motion to,
Oh, I was gonna say there's just one spelling
Oh,
thing
yep.
I mentioned. Notice, so Sarah Preston's name under guest present. Yeah, there's that E, the second
yeah.
E should be crossed out.
Okay.
motion to approve with the one edit as described.
Okay, second.
Liz.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion
I
passes.
abstain.
Oh, you're
I wasn't
abstaining.
there.
Lucy is abstaining. Motion passes unanimously. And can we look at the March 31st minutes? So the attached notes from Cheryl, actually, we should figure out how, I don't know how we would do this on Board on Track, but they're kind of part of the minutes. So we would be approving them with that attachment. So look at the basic minutes as well as the summary sheet from Cheryl.
So that technically would have been associated with the previous set.
No, her summary is from the March 31st.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a different. Yeah, it's her March 31st summary.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 31st minutes with the attached Fulcra document.
Okay, I'll second. Liz second. All in favor?
I have to abstain.
I did.
Yep. And then Brianna is abstaining,
Same here.
and Jean is abstaining. And everyone else? Did this pass? Okay, motion passed unanimously. Okay, public comment. Tom Azareto.
Hi. This is Matt. Not really on. Hi. So I just want to have a brief comment as someone who's been teaching here for many years, as a parent of a daughter who graduated from AMSA a couple of years ago, and as someone who for 1 year spent some time on that side of things. So this week on Tuesday we saw a presentation of the ideas of what may be in store for our school on the campus here at Dept Architect. And I just want to thank the board and the administration working with the board for what must have been a year of extraordinarily hard work. Obviously, a lot of time and effort has gone into getting to the stage to see what we were presented, and that must have been very time-consuming and took a lot of intelligence and care. In addition to that, I'd like to thank the board for the efforts made through the last 4 or 5 years or so to resolve long-standing haunting problems that we've had. And that combination has been wonderful to see. I am personally grateful, and I think my colleagues are, and I hope many of the parents are, and the students we teach are. And I'm looking forward to next year, being able to just have undivided attention on students, class, teaching, and sustaining and improving and perfecting the academic life of AMSA, which in the end is what gives our students the unusual opportunity to really bring out what is within them, and to set them on a course for the future which they and we can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. That's much appreciated.
Yeah, if I can make a comment, and Tom, thank you, because you were a big part of getting us here too, with your contribution.
Yes. Thank you. That is a very good point. Let's move to Brianna's update.
All right. So I have to give a shout out to my students over there. Hello. They're here for an assignment. For citizenship.
Homework.
So, yeah, I know. I wish they would come on their own. Yeah. Maybe this will inspire them. All right. So as you all know, just as Tom was just talking about too, faculty and staff had the opportunity this past Monday to attend a meeting in which the vision regarding facilities was presented by Dr. Lewis and Ms. Lindsay. Overall, this vision was received positively by the faculty and staff. Teachers reflected that our current location feels like home, and any changes to the actual buildings will help to maintain the feeling of the history and tradition of AMSA. Faculty and staff were impressed with the potential renovations that could be done and understood the financial foundation behind the decision. Some concerns did arise regarding the timeline, parking availability, the impact on the property around the buildings, particularly the wetlands, since many science classes use them as experiment spaces and for their own classes, and which building, and we're curious about which building would be given first priority for being renovated. Moving on from that, most recently I just want to recognize several teachers who chaperoned 2 separate international trips over April vacation, one of which was to Italy and another was to Japan. These trips are a tremendous opportunity in which teachers can take part here, but they are by no means a vacation for teachers, as they are responsible for these students 24/7 for their safety and well-being. Other overnight trips that many of our teachers take part in throughout the year include one to Washington, D.C., smaller overnight class trips to kind of more camp locations, and various club trips for what teachers advise, and the dedication and willingness of these teachers to give their personal time to provide these experiences for students is a huge asset to our school community. Beyond that, many teachers are dealing with some of the added stress that comes with testing season, as we, a couple weeks ago, had the first rounds of the ELA MCAS, and math is coming up, and then AP exams are also approaching. These tests are naturally all part of the job, but with the unexpected number of snow days, that presented an extra challenge to finishing certain curriculums, as the test dates do not get pushed back as a result of these, and we have to meet certain deadlines with that. And with the start of the final term of the academic year, which started on Friday, April 13th, teachers are already preparing to conclude the school year. It feels crazy to say that, but that's where we are. And a final exam schedule was just released this past week, so teachers can start planning for that as well as students. Curricular are entering their final units, and plans are underway for next school year already as well. The scheduling vendors have continued their work on the schedule for next year. They've been soliciting feedback from teachers on their current schedules in order to make next year's schedule even better. Teachers also had the opportunity to apply for grade level coordinators, and those selected have been recently informed of their position for next school year. And teachers who advise clubs were also asked to submit the time spent on these clubs so that they can receive adequate compensation for these, and we're asked to also indicate if they're continuing on advising such clubs. Looking forward, there's even more opportunities for teachers to show off the work of their students. So we have the drama production this weekend that will be held at Tohoto Regional High School on Friday and Saturday. We have our arts night coming up. We have several other end of the year events that again teachers are going to be taking part in. We also have our last half day PD next Friday. And those who are teaching seniors are preparing to end the year with those students, as seniors' last day is on May 30th. And other end-of-the-year events like prom and graduation are also taking a lot of the time of teachers. So it's definitely a busy time of the year for us, but everyone's excited to kind of reach that end and look forward to next year, like Tom was saying, since we have a lot of answers now at this point. And that also includes the collective bargaining agreement, which we know will be presented to us shortly, which is always encouraging. That's it.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Murphy? No. Great. No news is good news, or no questions is good, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our parent rep update.
Okay. Just with regard to the citizenship students, I spoke with a PTO member last night at Screenagers, and she said her son or daughter, I can't remember which, was in the citizenship class and came to a board meeting and loved it. He or she had so much fun. So I'm hoping that is the case.
How exciting our board meetings are. They look thrilled.
And I guess he or she came to a second one or so. I don't know. That's what she said. So I'll start with the building also. The parent facilities communication on Tuesday was excellent. Dr. Lewis and Ms. Lindsay did an excellent job explaining the slides, going through all of the situations that we had been through, and I think answered every question that the parents had very well, very clearly. I don't think anyone left that communication like not knowing what was going on, so they did an excellent job. I did receive one email. A parent has recommended that we add tennis courts. So my response was that, well, this vision and these plans are a collaboration between the administration and the teachers and the students and the parents. So I encouraged him to get involved and stay involved and help with the whole process. I think the communication went over very well. So with regard to school safety, so the last regular family forum, not this most recent special one, concentrated on school safety, and there were a lot of parents concerned about the building and the safety of the students. It was close after the tragedy in Florida. And again, Ms. Lindsay and Dr. Lewis did a great job explaining that the school is now incorporating the ALICE technique, which is, the Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, Evacuate. It's a program that they're working with the Marlborough Police Department on, and they've had meetings with the teachers and then also with the students. So I think the theme of the family forum was more that you can harden the school to some degree. You can only do so much security-wise, but you also need to convey the culture and the core values to the students and make them feel safe. And that is, in addition to like security measures, you also need to, educate the children and make them feel safe. And I think that message came across to the parents. So I thought that was handled well. One parent has mentioned that communication is better these days. She had mentioned that she had a 6th and 7th grader starting a couple years ago, and the communication was so bad, she sent her 7th grader to school a day early. Like, she just thought, okay, if my 6th grader needs to go, so does my 7th grader. So she was the one that had said, yeah, communication is better, but I do know there is a new communication task force. Dean Fryer, I think, is heading up. So I mentioned that to her, and she was happy to hear that was in the pipeline. Also at the PTO meeting last night, I got a specific request. The PTO really needs volunteers. They're having a really hard time staffing the dances. Everyone that is working with the PTO is just stretched to their limits. So just doing a shout out for any volunteers that would love to help the PTO. And so in my email to the parents this month, I recommended they view the department chair presentations that were presented to us. I know they're on the website, and I think initially my question was more, can we get the slideshow or the slide deck put on the website? I think some of the parents might not have the 34 minutes to watch the entire thing, but if they had access to the slide deck.
It is on the website.
Okay, good. I just didn't see it. Sorry.
On the homepage, it says AMSA reattached.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure people know that, because those were really good presentations, and I think the parents would learn a lot from seeing those. And with regard to trips, I just wanted to mention, as a parent, my student went on 2 international trips, and one of the other things that I think the students get out of these is just the relationship that's so different with their teacher on a trip like that, and it enhances their relationship with the teacher, and I thought my daughter, at least, really enjoyed going on those trips. So thanks to the teachers. And that's it.
Any questions for our parent rep?
So if a parent were to be interested in volunteering to the PTO, who should they contact?
So Mary Leader is the woman I spoke with last night. She's the co-president. I would start with her. Her last name's Litteer.
There's an email address on the PTO page on the website.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to our ED update.
All right. A hearty welcome to everybody tonight. Everyone has the text there. So I have a couple short updates and a couple larger updates. So Brianna and Jill mentioned the trips. I too would like to have a big hearty thanks to all the chaperones who led the trips. There were 2 big trips. One was to Italy and Japan. The Japan trip was chaperoned by Alex Waldron, Tony McDonald, Peter Prue, Holly Johnson, Vlad, Bobo, Monica Benson, and Brendan McDonough. And I was talking to Vlad today about the trip in Japan, and it just sounded absolutely amazing. This is just a teeny tiny snippet of where they went. Started out in Tokyo, and they went to, I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, Hakone, an island where they viewed Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples. They took a bullet train, traveled to Mount Fuji volcano, had a very moving day at Hiroshima. They took a tour of the bomb site areas. It was a tour provided by an individual who actually survived Hiroshima. Vlad said that he was deeply moved by that, as well as the whole trip. The students also took a boat tour of the very beautiful and majestic island of Mirojima to view its ancient monuments and shrines. Absolutely amazing, wonderful trip. The chaperones who went to Italy were Aaron Fuller, Brian Bacala, Jess Wong, Lisa Thibault, and Darcy Cloutman.
Bethany too.
Oh my gosh! Bethany's gonna kill me. I will correct. Thank you, Brianna.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, geez. Thank you. I will add that in. Sorry, Bethany. They visited many great sites in Italy, the Vatican, Sistine Chapel, the Colosseum. They climbed Mount Vesuvius. They visited Pompeii. Brian Bacala, who's one of our absolutely amazing, fantastic Latin teachers. This was his first trip to Italy, and he said that for him it just enhances tremendously his ability to teach Roman history, to teach Latin. He's now seen so many of the places that they talk about in class, and to have that experience was just profound for him. It's the best professional development possible. So it's just great to see that reaction, and they said that the kids were absolutely wonderful. The Italy trip is just one of several foreign language trips that's being planned. Mr. Fuller and Miss Preston are working on a Spanish themed trips for next year. And all of these trips, as folks, Brianna and Jill said, they're just amazing opportunities for the kids, for the students to see what they're learning about in class, opportunities for the students to grow, to be away from parents, and to grow and to be in a country by themselves and to walk around freely and to see their teachers in different perspectives too, and opportunities for teachers to just soak in the culture and the history and the language and the cuisine of all of these places that they talk about in class. It's absolutely amazing. It's the best possible PD. So next year, in addition to the trip to Spain, we have a trip planned to Europe, the history department, and a fantastic and amazing science trip planned to the Galapagos. So really exciting. So thanks to all the chaperones and to Bethany Bartolini. In particular, I'd like to thank Bethany Bartolini. So the past week, as Jill mentioned and Brianna, very, very busy. Monday, we presented the plans to the faculty. Tuesday, we did that with the folks. A big hearty thanks to all the board members who came for one or both of the nights. Jill, Liz, Ev, Roger, Chris, and Lucy. Did I miss anybody? Please tell me I didn't miss anybody. So thank you all for coming. It's very much appreciated that you did and supported us, and really appreciate that. Today we met with the mayor of Marlborough. It was a very good, positive meeting. He was very kind to us, and he said, look, I like AMSA. You guys do a great job. He did urge us to make sure that we do take care of the traffic flow pattern here. But he was very supportive, very kind, and very helpful. So very much appreciate seeing the mayor today. Next week, we've got National Honor Society on Tuesday. We're all looking forward to that. One other really quick update. I don't know if everybody has seen it, but we started something new a couple weeks ago, and we'll do another one very soon, and that's called what we call the State of the Union, which is kind of what State of AMSA is. The purpose, kind of the impetus behind that, it really comes from Tom and Madhavi in the math department, who offered a very helpful suggestion. And the basic point was that, you have videos for parents, you have communications with faculty. When do you really directly address kids, the students? And we have grade level meetings, and we have the community meetings, but those are more times for talking about other things. So there's never really a moment where we say, okay, let's talk to the students about what is AMSA all about. And it's a great idea, so we decided to really do this. And our first message came out in early April. And it contained 4 basic parts. One was just to thank the students for their smiles and hard work. Second was to offer a note of inspiration and to say that, hey, students, we're a school of high academic expectations. We take much pride in those academic expectations, and we know that students, you guys can fulfill all those expectations, hard work with grit and resilience and kia kaha. So to really get that message across about what AMSA is and what it takes to be an AMSA student, it's certainly a challenge. But the third note was to say that our role as teachers and administrators and counselors is to help the kids achieve that excellence. We have this wonderful, fantastic high goal, and our role, my role, Brianna's role, Ellen's role, all of our roles is to help each of those kids reach that high academic goal, to meet those expectations. And then last but not least, we had a request to the kids. We want all of our students to know, we want you guys to know always that our doors are always, always open. You are our number one priority. And whenever there's any concern about anything, Miss Lindsay and I want to hear it. Do not hesitate to bring a concern to us. Or if you don't have any concerns and you're feeling really good and you want to just talk about how wonderful the Yankees are, that's fine. Or the Celtics, that's fine. But not the Patriots or the Red Sox. That's fine. So those are
Those you go talk to Miss Lindsay.
Yeah. Yeah. So those were the short updates. The longer updates. So at the March meeting, we mentioned the 3 Bs, buildings, bargaining, and bylines. So I won't read all of this about the buildings because everyone kind of knows that we announced the buildings. There was a lengthy review process that went into that, architectural reviews, meeting with banks, meeting with brokers, members of the Board of Trustees, Tom Taverna, Lucy, Roger, Pauline, and Liana conducted very extensive financial analysis. And as Tom noted, it was a very lengthy, extensive process. It was always very difficult to come to faculty and say there's no update when there really was so much work that was being done by our staff, by the Board of Trustees, that helped us make the decisions that we made. And decisions that we made were that we are pursuing, that we've purchased the White Building and pursuing the purchase of 199 and 201, and that at the end of the day, the key reasons that we did this have to do with keeping us financially viable over the long term, making sure, really, really important, that we have the ability to invest in our teachers so that we can really make progress on the inequities that exist between AMSA and surrounding districts such as Marlborough. And so that we also have the financial flexibility to invest in our faculty facility over the long term. We showed the sketches to the faculty. We showed the sketches that Arrow Street has worked on to the parents as well. And that really made a big difference. And as we said at these meetings, we have several goals. We have short-term goals. We have long-term goals for the facilities. Short-term, HVAC is definitely a priority. Kids and teachers should not be in a room when it's 95 degrees, nor should they be in a room when it's 50 degrees. We have to make sure that the heat and cooling is absolutely appropriate. Definitely also want to improve the traffic patterns. The mayor made that very clear to us today. And updating the White Building and taking advantage now. That White Building is ours, yay, and we want to take advantage of the third floor and the fourth floor for classrooms and offices. The long-term goal is to make AMSA a place that we can all be proud of. We are proud of it now. We can be even more proud of it in the future, to make AMSA a school that is open and inviting and safe, and figuring out what that balance is. An AMSA that is modern and practical too, so that our parents have easy access to the school, and our staff has the space and the environment that they need to teach effectively. And we're very optimistic, and we were pleased with the response that we've gotten so far from parents and from staff. And the buildings that we have, particularly 201, these are our buildings that we've been with for many, many years. 201, the building over there, the lower school, was the first building that where we opened our doors to students in 2005. And for the first time now, we have the opportunity to be in control of our own home. This has been our home since 2005, and now we have the opportunity to control our own home and to shape it We have an absolutely amazing school, and from these buildings that we've had for many years, we've graduated so many wonderful kids, young men and women who've gone out into the world, and this was their home, and this will be the home of so many of future generations of AMSA students. So I decided to add a little Shakespeare to these buildings. And to paraphrase Shakespeare, it's a quote that comes from Richard II, Alex Waldron, and Steve Smith. If they're listening, or if they read this later, they'll be pleased. I hope. AMSA is our earth of majesty. It is our precious stone. This is our home. And now we have the ability to shape our home and to craft it in a way that suits all of our needs. One last really important note about the facilities and the process. The board has been incredibly helpful. The administration, Lisa O'Connor, who is not here.
She's coming later.
She's coming later. She's been truly the unsung hero of the entire process. She's a parent. She's been a member of the facilities task force. And this past year, she has worked hour after hour, come to meeting after meeting, spoken with banks and brokers, and she came to meet the mayor today. Always incredibly well prepared, and always with a smile and a sense of good humor to make the process much better. So thank you, Lisa. We'll thank her when we see her. So that's first big update. Second big update, Brianna mentioned this as well, the bargaining agreement. So there was a tentative agreement that was reached April 5th. On all core terms with the members of the teachers bargaining team and the Teamsters Union. The language of the agreement is now being ironed out, literally as we speak, and hopefully will be presented to Steve Smith, the bargaining rep for the teachers, for the Teamsters, and we're very much looking forward to the vote. And we're optimistic that the agreement that was reached will demonstrate, this talk doesn't mean much, action does. We hope that it demonstrates a commitment to goals that we've talked about. We've talked a lot about teacher retention. We've talked a lot about salary equity. We've talked a lot about creating an environment where teachers are psyched up and want to come to AMSA, and hopefully they see that. Because all of us at the end of the day, we're not divided by one job or another job, administration or teachers. We are all one, or board members. We're all one, and we all have the same common goal of making this the best school in the Commonwealth, and hopefully that collective bargaining contract puts us in that direction. And then last but not least, another really important B, and that is the byline. So buildings, bargaining, and byline. And this has to do with core values. So there are two documents that you have. You have the Fulcra synopsis of the planning retreat from March 2018, March 31st, which references the values. There's also a little handout that hopefully you have in your packet. It says AMSA's core values. So let me just give you a little bit of context for understanding that. So we're happy that we've produced a set of values. The values that you see, we've referenced these, we've referenced the process in previous board meetings. The values that you see hopefully have been produced in a very open and collaborative fashion by the entire community, faculty, students, parents, administrators, and board members. At the March meeting, we discussed what our great consultant, Cheryl Lower, did. She led 3 focus groups, one specifically for parents, one specifically for students, and one for faculty and staff, where they focused on several questions, including what each of the parents, the students, and the faculty would want our core values to be. And then after those 3 separate focus groups, there was a final mixed focus group that met on March 29th. And that consisted of, there were teachers, administrators, students, parents, and board members were there. And the goal of that group was to use all of the feedback provided by the other focus groups, students, faculty, and parents, and then to whittle that down to just a couple core values, 3 or 4 core values. And the values that they produced, that final mixed focus group on the 29th, there were 3 core values: integrity, excellence, and community. And they stated that, the final mixed group stated that these values were representative of the values of the larger focus groups. In addition to finding or discovering or highlighting those values, they added, the final mixed focus group added verbs to those values. So it's not just integrity, excellence, and community. It's, at AMSA, it's model integrity, pursue your excellence, foster community. And it was a very rich discussion about why they felt the need to add those verbs. And that is to say that the values that we would have, they're not static values. They don't just exist. They require all of us, each of us, students, parents, teachers, administrators, board members, all of us to act on those values, to hold each of ourselves responsible for pursuing those values. It's not something that we look at and nod to. It's something that we actively, all of us, pursue, which I thought was a really great point. Another important addition that the final mixed focus group added was, you'll see there's three words with the value of excellence. It's pursue your excellence. The group had a very good point. The group said that they wanted to make it clear that there's no single one definition of excellence. Excellence is not always simply defined by a 5 on an AP test, an A+ in a class, or a perfect score in an SAT and an MCAS. Pursue your excellence means, in part, that each of us strives to be the best that we can be. And for one kid, it might be a 5 on an AP test. For another kid, it might be a 4 on an AP test or a 3 on an AP test. Or an A+ in one class and a B in another class. But always trying to push a little further and a little higher. After the March 29th meeting of the final mixed focus group, the Board of Trustees reviewed the values at the March 31st strategic planning retreat, and then between that retreat with Cheryl and Fulcra, Ellen and I, along with Rick and Pauline, put a final touch on the values, and that is what you, so that one sheet that you see there before you, AMSA's core values with the box and the kind of the gray highlight, that is the final end result of what Rick, Pauline, Ellen, and I produced. So we made 2 key additions. So the first addition, or first suggestion, is adding a preamble to that kind of slogan, the preamble, to indicate that the core values are collective values and they are individual values. So they're the collective values that we all seek to adhere to as an institution, and they're individual values that we each of us hold ourselves responsible for. So that was the first definition, kind of the preamble, like the preamble to the Constitution. Secondly, beneath each value, we decided it would be helpful to add precise definitions to each value so that there's no confusion as to what each value actually means, and that there's a common accepted definition for each of the values. So just as you can see it there as an example, for pursue your excellence, we added the definition at AMSA, we pursue excellence by embracing the joy of learning. That was a big idea that came up, particularly amongst teachers, about the importance of the joy of learning, by being curious, by working hard, by persevering in the face of obstacles, by embracing creativity and innovation, and constantly striving to improve. At AMSA, we reach for the stars. So always embracing the joy of learning, the love of learning, creativity, and always kind of pursuing more and reaching further. These are the values for the board to consider. We're looking forward to discussing putting these values out for the rest of this year and into next year, placing them throughout the school, on shirts, on bumper stickers, but far more important than putting them up on the board or putting them on a t-shirt or a poster or a bumper sticker is just having them become kind of like the air that we breathe, the everyday routine, the everyday culture, so that integrity, excellence, and community are more than just words and more than just things that we nod to as we walk by. They become our measuring rod. They become the rod that we measure ourselves by. Are we excellent? Do we model integrity? Do we promote community? They become our measuring rod, our shared purpose, our goals, and our plan of action. Excellence, our integrity, excellence, and community will be our beams of light that we project from our great school, the mighty and majestic lighthouse that is AMSA. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Lewis?
Just from the faculty perspective, when are we going to go over the preamble and the definitions and all? I don't know if you have an idea of when that will be presented.
Yeah, I think we were planning at the next all-staff meeting.
So soon.
Soon,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, yes.
Nice, okay. Great. That'll be good.
I have a comment on the persevering in the face of obstacles. So today, the GS Gents and the GS Gems presented their apps to the parents and the public, and one of the, I guess, requirements was you needed to list your obstacles and how you overcame them, and it was so cute because they were so honest about what they had to overcome. And one of the groups was like, well, we had trouble staying focused because one of us was always going off target. And it was great. It was great that even the clubs, are obviously exhibiting these values,
That's
goals.
awesome.
That's awesome.
So they did a great job. And Colby was really good too. He was awesome.
Yeah, and if I could add, just as you mentioned, students, because when we had the mixed group to review these, there were representatives from all stakeholder groups, but it was like the students had invested the most and brought the most to the table and really participated heavily. So it's really great to see that.
Yeah, the kids that we had at the final mixed focus group were just amazing. Just absolutely fantastic.
Actually, yeah, I want to reiterate this, right? I believe Raul said this, and this was not recorded when we were at the strategic planning session, but the two of you who were there said that the students were incredibly articulate, right? And brought so much to that discussion. So that's fun. That's really exciting to hear. So. All right. Let's move on to our department chair presentation. We have with us today Ms. Luba Schmidt, who is our math department chair.
I'm setting up my computer
Okay.
for presentation. I want you to read this one-page article that I distribute to my students when I see them the first time, and I strongly recommend, and I strongly believe that this article is connected to what we will do most in my department at AMSA. Thank you so much. It will not take long.
It's on. Yeah, it's coming.
Thank you.
Warming up.
So, in connection with what you just read, this is what our math department believes in. I believe that, Tom, can you next slide? I believe that the most enjoyable human activity is to think. And I think, therefore I am. These are Descartes' words that we strongly believe in. We believe that all students are capable of and benefit from studying high-level math courses. And we believe that mathematics best learned as structured course of consecutive concepts. And we believe that students should have the freedom to make mistakes, and they should make mistakes. We believe in second chances and collaboration. We believe that technology should open horizons and give students deeper insight, not just being a tool. And we strongly believe that math is fun. As you can probably see on my small picture of Escher. By the way, there is a great Escher's exhibition in at MFA, so I strongly recommend you to go there if you didn't, if you wasn't there. So in addition to that, we usually hear that math is a great tool for sciences, and once again, not only for sciences, for art as well. But we strongly believe that math is a great tool to develop everybody's mind. And once again, this is what we're trying to do here at AMSA. What AMSA gives to students: knowledge, skills, work habits. I believe we develop their ability to think independently and their ability to work collaboratively, and most importantly, appreciation of beauty of mathematics. How do we do that? We have strong curriculum, and like majority of our students introduced to ideas of calculus during high school. And we believe that this is an important part of our curriculum because calculus explains the world around us, the nature around us. So introducing to at least to some ideas of it, it is very important part of students' understanding and people understanding of nature. We believe in flexibility in lesson structure. We kind of don't believe in students sitting at their chairs and teachers lecturing the students. For example, in the picture there, you see Intro to Calculus class. They are actually applying calculus to figuring out how function of cost and revenue works. So it's not business class, it is Intro to Calculus class. We have a variety of advanced courses, AP Calculus, Linear Algebra with differential equations, multivariable calculus, vector calculus, new course 3D Geometry. It is a pilot course this year. We hope that we will continue we will be able to give this course in the future. We have financial literacy and statistics courses. We believe in giving school-wide math competitions. All our students, all our law school students participate in first step of math counts competition, and all our law school students participate at in AMC 8, and all our upper school students participate in AMC 10 and AMC 12. We believe that we need to introduce all students to non-standard problems that this competition competitions brings. And we heard sometimes, we hear words, okay, maybe not everybody needs to participate, but like I already said, we strongly believe that everybody should be introduced to this different math. We have very strong lower school and upper school math teams. I will talk about that later. We try to be involved in many interdisciplinary projects, mostly with science, obviously. This year we have, the first time we have the course, that interdisciplinary course together with computer science, with science department. And we already have this course planned for next year as well. We want to introduce students. We strongly believe that internships can bring a lot to our students. This year we have students kind of in-school internship. We have upper school students, assistant teachers in lower school. But we're looking for out-of-school internships. As you know, it's not really easy because not all everybody, are open to hire high school students, but we try to do that. Next. So, math department courses. You probably have seen this table before. If somebody wants a hard copy, I have hard copies. And I found that I didn't include middle school courses in this slide, and I'm sorry, it's not because middle school is not important. Actually, middle school is the fundamental thing for our success. In 6th grade, I definitely will add it right to uploading it. In 6th grade, we have pre-algebra course, and we actually have we wrote our own book for 6th grade. In 7th grade, we give students Algebra 1 course and Geometry course. And in 8th grade, students, for 6th and 7th grade, majority of levels studying the same thing. And in 8th grade, some of our advanced students begin to learn Algebra 2. And majority of other students, same thing, Algebra 1 and Geometry, continue with Algebra 1 and Geometry courses. So in grade 9, Algebra 2 and Geometry, and in the upper level, we introduce ideas of trigonometry, actually not only ideas, but some trigonometry study. Grade 10, as you can see, there are different in levels. Our upper level students are beginning to study calculus in the middle of the year. The students who need more time, they study Algebra 2, and in 11th grade they continue with Algebra 3, which is kind of continuation of Algebra 2, the courses which is between Algebra 2 and pre-calculus. There is a lot of diagonal movement. Some students beginning with kind of struggling group, and then at the end, in 11th grade, 12th grade, they end in the right corner. And when I teach BC calculus, I usually have 1 or 2 students who actually began our study at AMSA, and with most struggling group. And this is what gives me a lot of joy. And usually they are one of the best students, by the way. So these levels are not written in stone. Can you? So a little bit more about geometry, because this would differ AMSA from many schools, that we are teaching geometry in parallel to algebra, and at grade 9, all levels taking geometry every other day. Grade 10, all levels except advanced level taking geometry every other day, and 3D geometry elective courses available to advanced students, and in grade 11 and 12, 3D geometry elective course available to honors advanced students, and in addition to that, to those who recommended by their teachers. A little bit more of what our curriculum, what is the major points of our curriculum. Like I already said, those who need to study Algebra 2 for 2 or more years can do that. And as a result, even our struggling students building strong algebraic skills, students studying ideas of geometry in parallel to algebra, which gives additional opportunities to talk about some math concepts. We give students algebraic trigonometry skills early on, and they can use it when they're studying advanced topics in physics and chemistry. Because college acceptance is one of our goals, we kind of we assisting students in the application process, so students can take SAT 2 exams in 10th or 11th grade. Majority of students can do that, and advanced students taking AP Calculus exam after 11th grade, so they are ready to show the results in college applications. And we give students knowledge of calculus, including multivariable calculus and linear algebra, before or in parallel of studying advanced physics, chemistry, and statistics courses. Once again, this knowledge can give them deeper understanding of these concepts. So we use technology at AMSA. We would like to use it more. I will talk about that a little bit later. But we have math cards with laptops dedicated to our math department, and math cards with Chromebooks. And we're using Desmos, the programs, Desmos, Sketchpad, Mathematica for introducing concepts, playing with concepts. IXL is the tool more for training, so we use it when we need it, preparing for exams, etc. So here you see students playing with functions on the right, and multivariable students creating some visualization of 3D objects. I do not bring a lot of numbers here today, but I want to show you some numbers that we are really proud of. We're really proud that our AP participation is really high. So you see we have like 80 to 100 students who are taking our AP courses. You see that for next year we have a lot of students assigning for AP statistics. It is the first time we have this increased number of students. We'll see how it will go.
Do you know what's driving that?
Say it again.
Do you know what is driving that dramatic increase?
I don't know yet, so I will probably have more answers maybe next year. We'll see.
I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, actually,
no complaint.
Yeah, it is.
Great.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting dynamic. We have very strong math teams and clubs, math clubs here. So here you see our low school math team. And I will talk about upper school math team a little bit later. As you can see, we have a lot of boys in math team, and this is what we usually see. And we want to invite more girls into math teams. So this year, this is the first year when we run in low school, when we run girls math club, and it goes really well. So you can see the other picture here is of math girl clubs. Usually it is actually more girls. This picture was taken in one of the last sessions. So we're really proud of that. So this is our Yeah, actually, can you go to the previous one? Thank you. So, law school math team, we cannot invite everybody who would like to participate. We usually in September we run first step of math counts as an exam, and we invite top 25-30 students to our lower school math team. Can you go further? For the upper school math team, we are really proud that we can work with whoever wants to be the part of math team. Here you see our varsity team, in our freshman team, and all of our achievements on the right. So we participate in a lot of competitions. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So last year we were first in New England Small School championship, right? So and our fresh team is the first for Wakamal League for our for our local league for the last 3 or 4 years. So we are pretty successful here. Can you go further, please? Thank you. These are math competitions that our upper school math team participate in. And can we go to the next slide? And this is the competition that our lower school math team participate. And I know that many of you, and actually many people think, okay, so math team is for like 20, 30, 40, 50 students, and we have like 1,000 here. So I believe that the member of math team actually brings a lot to AMSA, and this is one of the examples. As you can see, one of these icon shows AMSA Moms Pi Day tournament, and there is a story behind it. Our upper school math team created the tournament for our middle school students and ran it for several years. And after that, can we go to the next slide, please? We decided that we will spread some ideas. So we decided to have this tournament not inside our school, but we created the tournament together with Math Academy. And this year, actually, 20 teams from all over Massachusetts participated in this tournament. It is created completely by students. So students own it, students run it, students write problems for this tournament. So, but as a result of us moving this was actually Pi Day tournament. As a result of us moving Pi Day tournament outside of AMSA, our law school students didn't have, now kind of don't have Pi Day tournament, so we're bringing to them math team, our upper school math team bringing to them Gauss Day tournament, which will happen coming Monday. So I will give you several minutes to read what our graduates say, because we strongly believe that one of our goals is to prepare students to do well in college and beyond college. So if you can read what our graduates say about AMSA and about math department.
Can I take a picture of that?
Absolutely. I believe it
Brag
is
about it.
pretty powerful testimonies.
Can I put it on Facebook?
Yeah, this is a public meeting, so yes.
Right now.
And what is important, not yet. And what is important is students who wrote these testimonies, they've been here in different levels. Some of them advanced, some of them are not. And they are writing that to different teachers. Some of the teachers are upper school teachers and some of the teachers are lower school teachers. Can you, Tom, can you go to the next slide? Yes, so.
Very nice.
Okay, so our challenges, our future challenges, current challenges, and some of our future ideas. Right now, we're in the process of adjusting curriculum to new standards. We never align our law school. I want you to know that we never align our law school curriculum exactly with Massachusetts standards, because we have slightly different sequence of concepts that we study, and we strongly believe in this sequence. So when you probably see our MCAS results for 6, 7, and 8, they are not as great as our MCAS result for 10th grade, which is usually, very solid. Right now, our curriculum is a little bit even less in sync with what new standards bring. And you know that there was a lot of movement which exam to give. It was PARC exam, then it was MCAS 2 exam, and etc., etc. So right now we are looking at maybe aligning our curriculum a little bit more with standards, but while we are doing that, just bear with us. You might see not so great result in our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, maybe for you too, but be sure we will be there. So we are looking for new textbooks in support of our redesigned curriculum. Our books are pretty outdated. So I really hope that during some, nearest future, we will see some textbooks that we can happily buy. Right now, that's not the case, but I really hope, we're really looking for new textbooks. We are losing some of our best students to Mass Academy, and this is really disappointing to us. I believe that our administration and our department already began to talk to students and to analyze our programs, because we invest so much in our students. We want them to stay at AMSA. Which brings me the next thing, that I hope to have some support from the board, because partially our best students are leaving because other schools, not only Mass Academy, but other schools have better acceptance for higher colleges, higher level colleges. So I believe that we need to seek some connections, some better connections to the best universities, and advertise our school more widely, because sometimes we had some instances when colleges just told us, we have no idea what your school is. Even we're participating in all these competitions, we're kind of present in Boston community, but still we need to do more advertising. And we are going to London this year, so this is our first trip, first Math Department trip. We are doing it together with Science Department. We are happy to introduce students to math and science history around the globe, and we already began to plan our next trip for next year together with Science Department. And that's it for today. Thank you so much. questions?
Do we have an increasing number of people, students leaving from Mass Academy? You said we were losing them. Is it more?
We do not have increasing number. For example, I believe the highest number of students leaving from Mass Academy was from our Alpha class.
Okay.
So I cannot say that we have increasing. We have pretty steady number of students leaving from Mass Academy. I would say that.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they are our best.
Okay.
13 applied,
13?
and they're getting acceptances out May 1st, and it won't be any more than 4 up to 6.
Okay.
Question about the universities. Is there a list of ideal targets that we should do more with?
We definitely can create the list, but I believe everybody knows the list.
I can give you the list.
So is
I
it like
can list
local,
them.
is it WPI, and like?
It's
or
the top 10 math schools
in Massachusetts or
in the
national?
US. Yeah.
All right, in the US. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we do have.
I think I know them in order.
Yeah, we do. We do have students who are accepted there, but we believe it is disproportional to the talent of
Right.
our students.
So we want to recruit alumni from those schools to the board.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a piece of it. I think another piece is just like we're thinking about like having more investment in development and having somebody focused in that area. What a lot of schools do is they have folks dedicated to reaching out to admissions departments and having established relationships with those schools, so they really understand the talent and
This is exactly what we're looking
Yeah.
for. Any other questions?
I have a question. In terms of the textbooks, is it that you're not sure which textbooks you need, or that it's not in the budget?
No, right now it's not the problem of the budget, though when we will find it, it will be the problem.
Right, okay.
So it doesn't exist, is what you're saying?
Right now it doesn't exist, yeah. So
Okay.
our ideal books, they do not exist, but I hope they will appear during next 2 years, because it is logical, because we have completely new, not completely, I wouldn't say completely, but pretty new core standards in Massachusetts, and we have kind of, once again, not completely, but new exams. So, and some ideas behind the core standards are very different from current books. So I'm really looking forward to seeing new books with completely different approach. But it is not there yet. Yeah.
Are online books an option?
Definitely, we look at everything.
Okay.
So definitely. And, we actually looking towards the new book that we will have both, textbook and electronic book. Yeah. But, yeah, everything is an option.
So, different question. So if, like, say, Bill Gates or Google, someone gave us $1 million to invest in the math program, what would you do?
I need to think about it.
Jump for joy.
Yeah, probably new technology, because we have kind of, we do not have everything that we want to, but it is less than $1 million, so I really need to think about it.
If I could just also add that Luba's been here for 13 years. She was here when the AMSA opened its doors, and our math department has been a top-notch, one of the best, if not the best, in the entire Commonwealth. And we have gone through so many changes at our school, ups and downs, but Luba has been a pillar of this community for 13 years. 13 years of hard work, commitment, and dedication to make this math program an absolutely amazing program. So thank you,
Let me add to
Luba.
that. Not only is she an inspiration to the students, having worked for her, she's an inspiration to the teachers. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just one comment, Luba. It's more of a comment, not a question. On maybe and hopefully what's behind the interest in statistics, and to validate those of you students listening to this, from an industry perspective, that's definitely a big area of focus. The idea of the data scientist, which is a concept that a lot of people that are already past their education are hard to grasp into, getting into statistics and regressions and machine learning and predictive and all those kinds of thinking that's not usually what you're thinking about in high school. So it's great that students have that interest, and they should know there's a job for them if they go that way.
Yeah, we really hope that this is what drives this,
Right.
Increase of numbers.
So hopefully that means they're getting it, which is great. And I work for a software company, that's why I say that.
Okay. That was great. Thank you very much, Luba.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's move on to our, some of our other agenda items. Strategic planning. So Rick, I think this is where you wanted to talk about actually voting on some of these items?
Yes, and I'm going to have to gather my thoughts for a moment because what you shared was so amazing. It's got the wheels spinning. It's really exciting.
I know, there's a lot there.
Yeah, and to Raul's point also, it's like I was really happy to see that dramatic increase in the trend towards statistics, because industry desperately needs it, and so much is going in that direction. So it's just great to see the students have a sense of that and are going in that direction. So. Just in terms of the strategic planning and so forth, so just taking a step back and setting context, it's great that we're here. I just got to say it again. I probably said it the last couple of meetings, but it's like amazing. 4 years ago I joined, and I remember, I think it was in conversation with Roger as well as you, Pauline, around, boy, I'd love to join the board and we can start looking at strategy and this and that and the other thing, and we've been tied up with a lot of other stuff, but now it's like this opportunity, and I think we've made tremendous progress in the last few months in moving forward with strategy. So in that context, as folks know, we engaged with Cheryl, Laura, and Fulcra to help us with some of that, and I think some of the main components, I'm going to say some of this stuff out of order, but if you think about an organization and strategy, ideally you want a set of values that are unchanging, that hold everything else together. And I think as our ED shared, Anders shared, we've got a pretty solid set of core values that we can all agree on, and that were developed collectively by the community. And I think they're very powerful. And as I may have shared with some folks during the process, I've reviewed a lot of core values. These are among the best I've ever seen. So kudos to everybody involved in that. Then ideally, when you think about strategy, you've got the core values, which are kind of a funnel through which you can look at a lot of things. And then beyond that, you want to have long-term goals, and then from those long-term goals, you want shorter-term goals or one-year goals. And I think this year we've done this a little out of order. We first created our one-year goals, and just agenda-wise, we're going to be reviewing those later, correct? Yeah. So we'll go through those. I'm hoping in future years, when we go through the one-year planning, we could hopefully reflect them based on our 5 to 10-year goals. So as part of the last meeting, one of the things we focused heavily on was the vision of the school, what we see the school going towards, as well as what our 5 to 10-year goals are. And so looking at the information, and probably the easiest way is if you look at the information that Cheryl shared, and just jump to the very end where she shares the goals. We've got 3 goals that we came out with at the conclusion of that meeting. And in a recent meeting with Ellen and Anders and myself, we talked about these goals and thinking about, do we want to refine them a little bit, change the language, change the ordering. And what our suggestion is the following, and I'm sorry I can't project here right now, but the first item is, or the first goal we should look at is goal number 2, but rewording it a little bit. So if you look at goal number 2, originally when we met during the session, we talked about the notion of achieving excellence with whatever metrics we have. And in follow-up conversation, the thought was, well, and I think Anders, Dr. Lewis, you suggested this, that should our goals around excellence in this space actually be focused on making sure we're actually staying true to our values and are aligning several of our metrics with our values so that for the long term, we are actually making progress in that area and sticking to it. And when he shared that, I think Ellen and I both had the thought, wow, that's brilliant. How many organizations have you worked for, think about it, where they have core values and they don't have any metrics associated with the core values? Think about that. I mean, it's just crazy.
All of them.
All of them. I didn't not a single one. And most people don't know even what the core values are.
Even though they're on the wall and they walk by them every day.
Exactly.
They walk by them every day.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so the suggestion was goal number 2, let's reframe it and really reframe it around our core values and having metrics around core values. So over the next 10 years, we're aligning more and more to being, focused on integrity, modeling integrity, around excellence, around community and collaboration. I'll just share this also, you think about strategy. Some of the challenges we faced over the last 3-4 years, which we've thankfully come through, had to do with not necessarily being true to certain aspects of some of those very values. And so from a longevity perspective of the institution and to prevent getting off track, having our first goal being true to those core values and metrics around that is critical. So we need a little more work around that, but maybe at the conclusion of this, I just want to make sure folks, maybe at this point, folks are in agreement that we should actually pivot goal number 2, which would be for the first goal, to actually be focused, in fact, on achieving and focusing on our core values. And I open that up to folks and their thoughts. Does anybody disagree?
No. The challenge is how to turn that into, because values you live, right? So what's the metric of integrity, right? So maybe that's a discussion. So the goal is not itself integrity. It's what are the metrics that we want to attach to value of pursuing integrity and modeling integrity.
It's really interesting to be letting go of the report card. Is that we're not going to be in the top 5% of whatever.
Doesn't necessarily mean that. I said it doesn't necessarily mean that because we can still have metrics in that space. And they reflect pursuing your excellence.
Right, and not pursuing the high grades just for their own sake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a step away, and it's kind of I love it. It's a little scary too.
Yeah.
We're so used to being the smartest kids in town, right? And we're letting go of that being the measure of our excellence.
I wouldn't.
I don't know if that's what had.
Yeah, I don't think that's the intention. I think the intention is that at least when it comes to the excellent part, Chris, that we're thinking of, every student is going to achieve at the highest possible level that they can possibly achieve.
Right.
For some students, that might be a 5 or a 4 or a 3, or for some students, it might be an A in one class, a B in one class. It's just a constant to set us a standard across the board that
But unless I'm understanding this incorrectly, that means and not that we were so addicted to it, but letting go is that the aggregate SAT score is being the measure of that.
No. I think that's certainly part of, I think the discussion around each of these is worthy of a collective community-based discussion. What does excellence mean academically speaking? What does it mean in terms of MCAS scores, AP scores, SAT scores? What can we collectively agree on in terms of that? What is a high, strong goal to strive for?
Yeah. In fact, I would argue that one could view it that if you do this right, actually, when you think about pursuing excellence, one mistake some folks is they set a goal and everybody just tries to hit the goal, not exceed the goal. And what we're looking at is, no, we're not just looking to hit a goal, we're trying to, how do you put it in the core values, right? Constantly striving to improve, right? There's this constant push to go further and further. So the intent is, continually moving forward as opposed to just
the intent is to continue to challenge ourselves as administrators, trustees, as students, to continue to push, to continue to do more of what we thought was possible. I mean, if it's a student who comes into a class and is really struggling and is earning all Ds and all Cs, to push that student to earn C pluses, to push that student to earn B minuses, push that student to earn a B plus, push that student to earn an A plus. Or if a student comes into an AP class and they are failing that class for the first 2 quarters, to push that student to a 3, to push that student to a 4, to continue to strive and to continue to improve for all of us, and to help kids see that they are capable of great things with striving and with hard work and with grit and with resilience.
So I'm thinking, and maybe I'm taking lines similar to Chris. I think that I really like the idea of having goals that align with the core values. But I don't think that replacing goal number 2 with a core value goal is the way to get there. I think we need a goal based on excellence, and we need core values, but it shouldn't be a trade-off to say, well, you can have integrity-based measurements in replacement for excellence-based measurements.
Oh, completely agree.
So
totally agree.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But the way I heard it was that it was a trade-off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so that's where I got confused.
No, yeah. They would be, I think the goal here is to say, okay, if we have these core values, integrity, excellence, and community, then if we really believe in these values, that these are the values that we want to uphold, then let's measure ourselves by these values. Let's not just put them on the wall and say, oh, look at those values. Because if we do that, it'll be a waste. This will be a complete waste of time. But if we take these values seriously, if we wish to be excellent, if we wish to model integrity and foster community, which we all do want to do, then let's measure ourselves by that. Let's hold ourselves accountable, all of us, for that. Let us be excellent, and let us figure out how we are exactly going to do that and strive for that. And then the next year, strive to do more. And let us strive to model integrity and foster community. These are the values that we have produced. Let us measure ourselves by what we have produced.
Yeah.
It's sort of already there. I mean, clearly at the end of the day, because the second sentence there is that the AMSA's values are the means to achieve it, and I think now it's just melding those two, right? Making it that the values should be part of the metrics too, not just how we get there.
How would you
But how would we measure
the value? So how would you measure integrity? How does that
it's a good question. I mean, I think part of that, Rick was saying how we've gotten into trouble in the past with not exactly following it. I mean, I think from a teacher perspective, cheating and plagiarism is certainly an important sign, and looking for honesty in students. I would think that from a school-wide administrative point of view, the development of trust is an important metric that could be gained from student surveys, right? So I don't think teachers are going to trust an administration that is deceptive, that doesn't communicate. So I think there are certainly ways to tease that out of what students are doing in classroom, what administration is doing, and whether there is a level of integrity in what is done, what is communicated, what is said, are things followed up on. Might be a little difficult to come up with it right now, but I think there's definitely ways that can be looked at.
I'm thinking of it, I guess, also in terms of for pursuing your excellence, on how much you might you measure that. So is there possibly, one idea might be to have a metric, if it was SAT scores, and so if our 7th or 8th graders scored a certain average grade one year, then maybe the goal is 2 years from now that level needs to be, say, 10% higher.
Right,
or,
growth as opposed to an absolute.
and even, or the growth of it. And even if it was the lowest end, the middle, the top, but each one of those levels, we have.
Yeah, it's collective growth. It's also individual growth for each and every student, because each and every student is different. So,
right.
And you want the collective growth,
right,
so as a school, that we're doing collectively well, but you also want to see the individual growth of a student at the very top end, and the growth of the student at the very bottom end. And we value each and every one of those kids, and we want to continue to push them higher.
I think we
And so
also
it's
have
coming
to-
up with metrics that do that not just speak to the whole, but speak to the individuals as well, at the high end and at the low end.
So from a school standpoint, if these are our core values, it's, well, I guess, yeah, it's both. You can't do one without the other. We need to see
It's
the
the collective
as well
and
as-
the individual.
Yeah.
And we can't fetishize the metrics either, because the metrics, I think, out the gate, they're probably not going to be very good. Generally, they aren't. We start trying to measure something that's really hard to measure, and it's not like, we've decided this is the metric, and by God, we're going to do whatever we have to do to meet it. It's sort of like, we're going to get it, we're going to articulate it, we're going to work with it, we're going to learn from it 1 year, and then the next year, the metrics that we do in 2019, if we're doing our jobs, will be very different than the metrics we're using in 2024 for these things. And it's the journey and sticking with it and persisting in the face of obstacles, et cetera, as we go through this process as well. And so I think if we're all working really hard on the metrics, that's the important thing. Having it perfect is not.
Absolutely,
That's
yes.
actually true, yeah.
Well, the goals here are the long-term goals for the board, which translate into long-term goals for the school.
That was
So-
the other way around.
So,
Yeah, the other way around.
but these, like achieving financial independence by building a deep and enduring pipeline, that's really something the board has some control over. Yeah, so
I think these were both,
Well, they're-
though,
they're-
right? These
are they
were really
are they
mixed.
really-
Yeah,
they're
I
really
think these
both?
were both. I think these were the
Okay.
really long-term, and I see that
Yeah.
Cheryl changed this to 5 to 10. I think these were really meant to be 10-year goals, right? I don't think any of us believe we can get to this by 5 years. That's just too short. These were our really, really long, big. What is it? The big hairy goal? That's what these were meant to be.
BHAG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what these were meant to be.
Yeah, and as folks may recall, when we came up with these goals, I think there was that exercise as to, do we think on a scale of 1 to 5, these are achievable or not? And 5 is like, it's a pipe dream. And I think the general consensus was it was about 4.
3 to 4, yeah. they're 3 to 4.
But they're audacious in some sense, but they're achievable with enough intention. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rick. I'm just thinking of Luba's presentation. I mean, if you think of the term excellence in math, I think the math department demonstrates that really well. They're very focused on high-end students, and they want to make sure that the high-end students are very challenged. They're very focused on kids who struggle a bit with math and giving them the supports in place so that they can advance through those different levels. They're also very focused on the fun and the joy of math, with math clubs, the competitions that they do, the math team. You can see that excellence in many different forms, in many different ways, through the math department, which I think is they offer us several metrics just by the presentation that they gave tonight for what is excellence in math.
Yeah. And one thing I have to say, I love so many things about the presentation, but one thing was when you shared that chart of all, first of all, it was amazing how many different offerings we have and how advanced some of these offerings are. I mean, I went through engineering and we were taking those in college, right? But what you shared in terms of students who sometimes started early and they weren't the superstars to begin with, and then working through them year after year with that constant grasping, that striving, they push through, and many of them make it to that really tight quadrant up there, which is very, very challenging.
Yeah, I strongly believe that this is one of them, our highest priority to do exactly what Anders said. But I'm a little bit concerned right now. You are talking about kind of SAT scores as a metrics. I believe it might kind of kill what we are looking for. I'm sorry for my comment. Because it is so much more. Just
right.
a number.
Yes. The joy of learning is much more than a number on a test. Yes.
And we've been having a lot of the same conversations in Ed Committee when looking at the dashboard we've been creating, and Yeah, and that challenge of not being so score focused and finding creative ways to measure like excellence and what academic excellence looks like beyond AP scores and MCAS scores and all that. And so looking at like the percentage of students potentially who take elective courses in different subjects, or the amount of course offerings we have could be creative ways that we do that, and maybe comparing that to other high performing schools as well.
So if I can just come back to this, if folks don't mind. So where we have listed goal number 2, which would ideally be the first goal, I think we're in general consensus on what the nature of that goal is. Now we have to go back and reword it and appropriately do that, but we just want to make sure our folks were in agreement, because that's a pivot, significant pivot. It is a pivot from what we originally
It's
thought.
not actually that significant. It's actually, I think it crystallizes what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
I think, we did this after 6 hours, right?
Right.
In that room. And so I think we were kind of burnt out by the end, but.
Absolutely. Then for the second goal, we're suggesting what's listed here as goal number 3 become the second goal, and that is set the standard for secondary education by transforming the way students learn and becoming a national model for dissemination. We felt the wording on that sounded good and solid, and it's a fantastic goal. It is in some ways somewhat audacious, but I believe it's also achievable based on our past track record too as a school. And I think when you think about that, setting the standard for education and really being a model, and for the folks who were there at the session, Dr. Lewis gave this wonderful image, which has been, which is kind of like seared in my mind, of that lighthouse, right? Where AMSA is really that lighthouse, that beacon, a source of, yes, thank you. Of what others. Well, it draws many in, but it's also an example of where others should follow or go to, and so that was kind of the second goal. Do folks have any comments further on the nomenclature or the wording of that goal, or?
I know this is but one more comment just about the quotes of the math department and about excellence too. And you think of all those quotes about the math department, and this is true for all the departments, about there's not a mention in those quotes about, at least I didn't see one about you helped me pass the test. It's you helped me inspire joy and love of learning, which at the end of the day, I don't want to deny the importance of test scores. Test scores are important. But at the end of the day, what's more important, and I think the article that Luba gave us expresses that, is what it does to a person after they leave. You can do well on a test and get a good grade, and that's excellent, but what have you gained from that? Do you know how to learn? Do you know how to critically solve? Do you have the joy? Do you have the passion? Which is so much more important when a person leaves the school and goes out into the world. And if we do that, the rest will take care of itself.
If I could just echo that, there have been multiple studies done on cohorts of students who graduate who are high performers from high school, and then they go into college. And at the end of their first year in college, of a cohort of high performers, about 50% will remain high performers and 50% will not. And the 50% who do not, who fall kind of from their standard, it has a lot to do with those non-cognitive capabilities in terms of they don't learn how to learn. They don't have some of the self-discipline. They don't have all these other things that they need internally, which are sometimes really hard, not necessarily impossible, but a little difficult to measure. But if you're just sticking strictly by the score, which are important, and the test scores, you can lose all of that, and we need to really focus on making sure our students are very, are holistically strong.
That sort of relates to me to the article that Lua passed out relative to the difference between mathematics and problem solving.
Yeah, exactly
what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the third, what is listed here is goal number 1. We would like to list as goal number 3, which is achieve financial independence by building a deep and enduring pipeline fueled by 30% non-tuition sources. And we felt the wording on that was strong enough, and moving it to number 3, because it isn't really our first goal, it's an enabler for the other 2, which are really critical.
So it sounds like really there just needs to be a little bit of work done to tighten the language on that
Yeah.
what's now the first goal, right? Moving
I'm sorry, on goal, what's the
goal 2 that's now goal number 1.
I'm sorry, it'll be goal number 3. Did I say it was goal number 1?
No, I'm saying that if you're assuming that word is
2.
Yes, goal
Yeah.
formerly known as.
The values goal.
Yeah, the values goal needs the word.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes,
needs
yes.
to be.
I actually just want to go back to what's now the second goal, with, at the very end of it, become a national model for dissemination. I would just ask a dissemination of what exactly are we looking at? Curriculum? Are we looking at instructional strategies? Is it both of those? Is it more than that?
Can you list a few more? Because we'll say yes.
Yeah,
to all of them.
Probably yes for everything.
We do.
Whatever made it the standard for secondary education.
That's a good,
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, I think it's the transforming the way students learn. So that could be
Okay.
by curriculum, or it could be by
Yeah.
instructional
Right.
design, or it
Whatever
could be
way we
by.
transform the way students
Even our
learn.
building, that could be a thing,
Yeah.
right? That's
That's a good
potential
goal.
now, so, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, actually, that was talked about
Okay.
in some of the visioning exercises about like even, do we have like
A
a living building.
classroom,
Yeah.
a living building,
Exactly.
living classroom.
Yeah.
So definitely, it involves all of those things. And
Where we
even
make our
things-
own, we grow our own food, like all that stuff. We went way into.
And even think about
Sure,
like
Raymond.
the notion of having sufficient funding to do whatever you need to do plus, right? I mean, we could disseminate our strategies in terms of development
Yeah.
and so forth
Right.
also.
That's good. That's awesome.
Alumni relations. There are tons of things we could disseminate. Okay. So those were the 3 goals. Does anybody have any follow-up questions on what the goals per se? So what we'll do is, as a follow-up, we will work on refining those. And then what I can try to do is, for the next meeting, also bring a framework. It's called, we talked about it at the last meeting, a Hoshin-Conry model. And I know some folks here have used them in other contexts, where it's a model to show your long-term goals, your, let's say, 5 to 10-year goals, your 1-year goals, and then what initiatives you need to realize those goals and what metrics you need to actually measure progress in terms of those. And so we can start working on kind of how do we actually translate the strategy into actionable or executable items.
Great. So we probably do want to vote on the core values, right? Because these are finalized.
Yes.
So let's cycle back to that. So we're almost there with the long-term goals, but I think we
Didn't
are.
we vote similar?
What's that?
We didn't vote on the values.
Right, we didn't vote, that's what I'm
Yep.
saying, I think we need to cycle back and actually vote on the values, right? And officially stamp these, so.
So I move that we adopt the values as written.
Okay?
I second.
Can I, just a question, I'm sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
Just a question, are you, is it adopting the words in red and the explanation, or is it just, are you just adopting the words in red, or is it everything?
I was assuming the
entire
everything.
document.
As is.
I'd say this
Everything
page.
as it.
This page, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
that was your motion, right? Your
Entire
motion is this page.
And any derivative works that are inspired by these. So did
And
Liz
who,
second?
Liz seconded? Okay, all in favor? All right, motion passes unanimously. Look at that.
Passionate in
Yeah.
favor.
Passionately. Look at this. And I think Rick said this on one of our calls. What's exciting about the process of actually generating these values, which took a long time to get to, is that we went through and actually exhibited each of these in the process of adopting them, right? It was very community focused. It was very focused on thinking about what is the best possible outcome for the school. And clearly we had people who were volunteering and doing this with great care and intending for the school too. So it's great. It's a great embodiment of work. Yay! Very excited to actually get a big piece of work done. Super. All right, and thank you, Rick. Let's move on to the survey task force. It says Michael Glass here, but he's not able to be here today, so can someone else do that?
Yes, well, I was afraid of this moment.
Yeah, you.
So I'm not sure, I'm gonna ask for help because we were tracking to the schedule. I just don't remember what the schedule was.
Survey's gone out.
So it's gone out, all right, so we're done. Yes.
Yeah. I know because I responded.
Right, so we talked Panorama, we had some review from the staff and it went out, so that's the update.
So the update is that the new revised surveys are out, right?
Yes.
Right.
And just to confirm, so it's the parent and the faculty. In terms of student surveys, where do we stand with student surveys?
So did we say that was gonna be part of the Pulse? So we didn't develop a student survey?
We don't currently have a
Yeah.
student survey.
Right.
You're thinking maybe in the Pulse might do something.
Yeah.
That was also, historically, the student survey's been done by the school. Board, so.
That's a good point. Well, I guess we can bring that back and, I don't know, the task force is still in.
I don't think it's been dissolved.
It's not dissolved.
Still
so we'll-
exists.
we'll-
Still exists.
So,
Still exists.
I guess,
I don't think the faculty one has gone out yet. I'm trying to remember. No, unless I missed an email, which is possible. But yeah, I don't believe it has. So I think just checking on that. Typically, I think we do it towards, the idea was to release it in late May, I believe, or mid to late May, and then review it or start to review the results in the June meeting, I think was our original plan. But I'm not sure. I don't know if we did settle on a date to release it. It's escaping me right now, but something we can check on.
Yeah. My understanding was,
I couldn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know, I think my mic is like the faculty survey.
The family one is, the faculty is not.
It's not, yeah.
but I think the plan was that the faculty one would come out about now.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Already? Oh. I mean, I feel like the last.
What did you answer?
I know.
Did you get the family survey?
The scheduling one? I mean, it's like
Faculty
60
survey.
questions, I think, 50 or 60 questions. I could have missed it. That's possible.
Did you win a prize?
so no, Ms.
No,
McCluskey was
review it?
reviewing.
Were you an extra set of eyes?
That could be.
Yes.
Let me see if it's in my email, too.
You can double check.
I can double check that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was about now was the idea.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, kind of like from a procedural perspective, is it going to be like a reminder sent out or anything like that for folks to up the response rate?
Yeah. I was actually going to ask about that too, because I almost forgot about my parent one. And it was literally only because I was doing this last night. I was like, oh, I was supposed to fill out that survey, right? And so I think another reminder needs to go out because it went out either like right before break or during break.
Yeah, I feel like it was even over break, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Not
over
sure.
break.
Which is easy to miss.
Right.
Because I remember, I think it was last year, that I think there was like, 2 waves of successive to the actual survey going out. There were 2 reminders following that, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have a target response rate?
I don't know. Do we have a target response
I
rate?
don't think we.
Because then rather than say we'll do two reminders, it's we'll keep reminding until we get the number that we want.
I just saw that the faculty did come out, but it was right before break, so.
Oh, so it's the same thing. Yeah. See, that's when the parent one went out.
Yeah,
too, so
exactly.
You
It's
just don't
tough.
number.
Yeah. So I will
Okay, so
send
they
out
both
another
went out.
reminder for faculty as well. It did, yeah. Yep, that's good. I know, now I'm embarrassed that I missed it. That's good, Ellen.
Well, I think.
But you did it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I remember we talked, I mean, there wasn't like a specific communication plan, but we talked about having explicit communication about the survey themselves. So we didn't say, oh, there's going to be X number of reminders and whatnot, but.
No, that's true.
But it does make sense.
But it,
Yeah.
Mike will send those out, so. I think that a goal is to have maybe top-line results in May, but really be able to talk about them in June, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
the goal.
Yeah, so I think the goal, as I understood it, was that we would have the multiple choice results for May and the open response results
Scrubbed.
and scrubbed for
Budget,
the June meeting.
Yeah, that would be cool. Okay, great. Good, so it's on track, is the point. Okay, let's move on to committee updates. Roger?
So we did, due to many of the other activities going on in the last month, we did not have a governance meeting. I believe there is in your packet, there is the Board of Trustees goals. I think I'm not sure whether we actually had reviewed these already.
We've reviewed them. We reviewed them in February. What we did not do, we didn't vote on them, and we didn't vote on them because we didn't finalize the last one. And when we talked about it in governance in March, we said, okay, this particular goal on process mechanics and improving decision-making is really a full board discussion. Like, we need to right now figure out how we can hammer out that goal, right? I think because the governance committee was having a very difficult time trying to write down what it was that we wanted to have as a goal.
And I think we didn't have this month. So I think we were actually going to try again, though, discussing it this month at governance.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the previous governance committee we didn't get there, and we didn't have a meeting last month. We will have one this month. I would suggest we go ahead and
approve everything else.
Approve everything else and come back with an amendment that's focused on process mechanics.
Okay, let's do that.
That way we can
That way we have them.
nail down the progress that we've got.
Yeah, I mean, it's end of April, right? So we need to have these. Okay, so then in that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the goals as written, right?
Except the process mechanics.
Except for the process mechanics, we'll do an amendment to add that one.
So moved.
Okay, Chris made the motion.
Second.
Second, Ev made second. All in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Great, that went fast.
Governance committee.
Governance committee.
Put on your thinking hats for the meeting. It will be, and it'll be the top item on governance.
So just to mention this, and we can discuss it in governance. I just went through a short similar process with another board where we define operational guidelines, for lack of a better term, on what's the best communication for different, like we'll email each other if this happens, but we won't do these things over email. Or the board meeting should be this. And so those kinds of little guidelines that sound like process mechanics.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll bring that and we can discuss adopting
That'd be
those
very
kinds of
helpful,
things.
yeah.
It's a way smaller board, but it's still
Do we have a governance
family.
meeting set?
I believe the date, it's on the calendar. I think it's
it's May
8th, but I haven't done the announce yet.
Okay.
So it's on the school calendar, but it's not been officially announced.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I think that would be really helpful. I think another is just kind of like from a theme basis of a few things we want to account for. One is, as we've talked about before, where there may be situations that some subcommittees or some folks have authority to have discussion. How does the board generally give them the right level of direction? What's the right mechanic? Because they may be having weekly meetings, and the board only meets monthly and can't give direction on a more frequent basis. So how to handle that? And I think another one is, as we continually try to have our board meetings more strategically oriented, which now we're going to have greater and greater opportunity since we've got long-term goals and so forth, and we need to spend more time on that. How do we pivot towards being that way? And so, what do we need to do? So what functionally within a board meeting? So one aspect is we've got a lot of updates. Is there a way we can somehow compress those so we can spend more time on strategic discussion? I think another might be around the whole issue of, ideally, we're a decision-making body, and so how do we formulate discussion to drive to a decision? Are there ways to just do it a little more efficiently so we can get through as much as possible and keep moving forward? So those could be some aspects of process mechanics too.
Okay. Roger, do you have anything more?
No.
No. Okay.
Nothing else.
Ed committee?
So I just wanted to thank Luba Schmidt, although she's already left, but I did want to thank her for that really inspiring presentation of the math department. I think that it really gave us a lot to think about, and I would highly recommend we get the document out to parents so that they can either watch it on the video or at least review the document. So. Just to let you know, the focus of our April meeting was a working session on our Education Committee dashboard, which we are hoping still progressing towards presenting for the end of the year. Unfortunately, we had missed our March meeting due to snowstorms, so we're a little bit behind schedule, but we're working towards it. The idea with the dashboard is that we would present it to the board, and then we would hopefully be able to use it going forward in the years to come and use it throughout the year so that it's not just one update at the end of the year, but as information comes out, we're able to provide updates. So that's the thinking behind the dashboard. Something else that came up at the April meeting that we've been discussing, we had a student join the meeting, similar to tonight, for the citizenship class. And it was actually very enlightening to have this student input. So I've had some discussions with Dr. Lewis and Ms. Lindsay about adding a student liaison to the Ed Committee for next year. The initial thought is that it would be probably a junior, someone maybe from student government. We're actually going to talk to Mike Naraki, who heads up student government. And so really trying to get the input of the student body into the Ed Committee, so we thought that would be interesting. So we're still working on the logistics, but it looks like for next year we will have a student liaison. We don't want to have it impact the committee quorum situation, so we'll probably just keep it to a liaison for now and then see how that progresses. So
Can I make one comment? I think that's a great idea because I know in that session where we had to create these values and just having the students present, it's like when you don't have students present, your view is here, and once you get their voice, all of a sudden you see, oh, I've just been missing this whole piece of the picture.
Well, and it was funny because she was really there to observe, but she really became an integral part of the meeting, so it was really nice to see. Unfortunately, her teacher was there, so she got hopefully got a good grade as a result.
A teacher and a dad.
Yeah. So exactly, but so I think we're very excited to try to make that happen. So I will let them know tonight that we're moving forward with that. And actually, in regards to that, I was thinking about with the core values, we should reach out to those 3 students and let them know.
Oh yeah.
Share that that information with them. So since they were so integral in developing them. And right now,
Can we ask the school to make sure that happens?
Yes.
That's it for Ed Committee.
Okay, thank you. Finance and Audit Committee, I don't think you have an update this month, or?
Not really, but I do think we should just let folks know where we are. So typically, this is the month that we review the budget with the board. We met about 3 weeks ago, and we went through the budget in quite a bit of detail. So we have a pretty good straw man in place. However, we decided to table the presentation of the budget until we had a little bit more information on what our facilities situation would be. I think now we're a little closer to that now that we've closed on the White Building, and we're in the process of working through the 199 and 201. I'm hoping that we have a little bit more information so that we can present something at the May meeting. But my question, because this is my first time leading this, is do we have until the June meeting to finalize the budget if needed?
We do, but we can always approve a budget. It's probably better to approve one and then amend it.
And then amend the budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we will plan to have something presented at the May meeting, and we'll go through it. line by line, folks. Fun times.
Bring your popcorn.
Bring your popcorn. It's the best meeting ever. And we'll go through it.
You love math, don't you?
I do. I do.
But in all honesty, going through that budget it's engaging.
Yep.
It actually is engaging.
We'll see if you say that after I present it.
Okay.
I'm just joking.
All right.
I can make.
Maybe I'm trying to inspire
I can make
you to
finance
make it
fun.
engaging.
I can make finance fun.
It is fun, because you're talking about where you're making resource allocation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a
Right, so
resource
that's
allocation.
the discussion.
So more to come on that at the next board meeting.
Great. Okay, thank you. And Chris, development.
So our April meeting was also crowded off the calendar because of the other stuff going on. But at the family forum the other night, we got 2 parents volunteering
Great.
to go beat up their corporations. So,
Nice.
so that was good. And so we rescheduled. We have a date, May 23rd. Our 2 outside consultants are coming in, and we just got pushed back for a few weeks.
Yeah. Super. Okay. All right. Do we have any other?
Just to share this, I was talking to a parent at the, during that meeting, or right after the meeting, he just volunteered. He worked for Citizens Bank, and he said that he'd gone to Citizens and gotten the employee match program set up for AMSA.
Right.
So,
Yay. Great.
so I think.
That's what we need. We need to get in.
Yes,
We have a very large parent community, right? So we need to figure out how to get them.
Yeah, so
engaged.
the guy I was speaking with works at Cisco. I think it's Cisco, but it's one of the big sites. And he was trying to figure out a way, he can't afford to give as much as the ceiling of his corporate match. And so we're trying to figure out a way to get the corporation to match more than 100% of the AMSA parent gift. Up to their limit, even if the donor himself can't make it that far.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So, lots of wheels turning.
For board members who have not made your annual giving campaign donations, please do so. I know that not everyone had as of a couple weeks ago, so I even had the list, but I didn't call people out, so.
They've probably done it since a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so hopefully people have done it since then.
As I did it.
Yeah.
This is just a question, and it might not be relevant, but is there, so we had the 5K a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't realize that it was for benefit a couple of charities. Does the school make any money out of it?
Not that.
No?
Not that one.
Not that one.
Not that, all right.
that one.
So there's
No.
another?
We did another one, but it benefited the Japan trip.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the a lot of the fundraising events are to benefit specific clubs or specific activities, or other charities, outside charities. Sometimes they want to do that. But the annual giving campaign really is that benefits the school, right?
Because I remember thinking it's expensive to get those like racetrack, the tracking and the whatnot, and it was a cold day, but the number of people I saw didn't feel like it was going to cover the cost. So I didn't know how financially how that came out, but I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Alex Waldron.
Was that?
Alex Waldron, the English department chair, was leading that.
She'll be at our May meeting.
Great. Okay.
So I just received the parent survey right now at 8:36 p.m. I don't know if this is my first
The
one
amazing
or the
Mr.
reminder
Finkel
one.
strikes again.
No, this is the reminder. Yeah.
That's the reminder.
Yeah, okay.
I was just gonna say.
On top of it.
Just took the lead, so I-
Wow. Talk about these things and then they just happen.
It's magic.
Great. Okay. Any specific agenda items for next month then? I am writing down the budget, right? So we see what we do there. Okay. For the May meeting.
We have the English department chair.
And
will
English
be in
department chair.
attendance.
Okay.
To do the presentation.
Okay. All right. I have 2 small things for people to think about before we close. So I would like you to think about, I will need, I think Rick and I will be on the task force to start doing Dr. Lewis's evaluation. We're going to try to actually do it on time this year instead of way in September. We should try to do it in July. We'll send out the input in June. We'll have the survey results in May, June. So we should be able to compile that in early July. And I would like one more volunteer. So I'd like you to think about that. And we'll talk about that next month. We'll comprise the task force next month. The other thing I would like you to think about, I think I've raised this before, is that we will have officer elections this June. So the June governance committee meeting is when we'll actually do nominations. So people who may have any interest in any of the officer roles, I will be transitioning off. Please talk to Roger as well. Okay?
Or talk to if you're interested in a particular officer position, talk to that officer. Talk to that officer to find out more about the position.
Yeah, so again, that's, we've got 2 months, but we need to think about that. So, okay, those were my 2 extra little items. So with that, let's, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the 3 items that are described, and to not return to normal session.
Second.
Okay, Brianna, second. Roger. We need to do a roll call vote. So start down on this end. Jill?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
All right, and we are going to invite Dr. Lewis and Miss Lindsay and Leanna McLaren and Lisa O'Connor to executive session.